Hi, I'm Arjun Monakrishnan with Rapera TV. Selflessly serving others while ignoring your self-interest. Altruism. It's a concept that we have been taught, we are familiar with. In fact, even religion, if you look at it, the key figures of religion are presented as having altruistic traits, and religious teachings tend to promote altruism. In fact, this concept of altruism doesn't apply to humans only these days, as even companies with their CSR, corporate social responsibility initiatives, are trying to present themselves as altruistic and not serving their self-interest or profits or whatsoever. And here today to talk about altruism is Arif Imran, the author of Altruism Out The Window. Hi Arif.
Hi Arjun.
Yeah, so here's a fun fact about Arif. He is 19 years old now, and he recently graduated from the University of Leeds in law. And now he'll be returning again in a few weeks to complete his bar course. And this book was authored by him when he was 17 years old. And while you imagine someone who's 17 years old would probably be more interested in writing comics or novels about love affairs between vampires and humans, for example, Arif decided to take the challenge, analyze the concept of altruism. Would I be correct to say that, Arif?
Yes, thank you Arjun for the compliment. I think that was what it was. I wrote a book about altruism because I'm personally very interested in analyzing and breaking down human behaviors. And for instance, the book on altruism, when we talk about altruism or selflessness, we're also talking about the opposite, which is selfishness. In both of these concepts, the fundamental factor revolves around an interest, a self-interest.
Okay.
And this is relevant when we're talking about human behaviors, because this is the motivating factor for human actions or inactions. And that is basically my why I'm interested in this topic, because I think that it's a very interesting topic. It's I think if you're able to find out what's constant in the behavior of human beings, you are able to manage your social interactions, but also manage yourself, because self-interest relates to the self.
I agree with you. It is an interesting topic, and as you've mentioned in the acknowledgement page, you had a lot of debates with your friends over this concept. So I would like to ask, did your friends disagree with you over the concepts that you had? How were the discussions like, challenging this concept with your friends?
I think the discussions were definitely over whether or not each and every one of us are selfish creatures. I put that in quote-unquotes because in my book, I qualify myself from the societal interpretation of the word selfishness.
Okay.
Because in society, when we say someone is selfish, we don't just mean the literal meaning. And the literal meaning of the word selfish is to act in your own benefit, to your own benefit. That is the literal definition. But society's definition adds on a negative connotation. That is, you're not just acting in your own benefit, but in the course of doing so, you're causing harm to those around you.
Understand.
Yes. So that's why I qualify that in my book, when I talk about selfishness, let's remove that negative connotation. Let's stick with the literal definition. And as per, I've done an interview with Rapera TV before as well, and I've said this then too. I've said that in my book, I qualify as such because there's a separate word that I think is better fitted to describe the societal definition or societal negative connotation over the word selfishness, and that is foolishness. Because a person who causes harm to those around him in the course of attaining his own benefits is short-sighted. And he's short-sighted because we live in a society where you're not just an isolated individual. Society is society because it's social. Yeah. So each and every one of us have got to interact in some manner. And by breaking those bonds, of course, in the cause of harming them, you're breaking bonds. By breaking those bonds, you limit and restrict your own opportunities to attain more benefits in the future. And yes, while you may make a gain or benefit in the short run, in the long term, wouldn't you be ostracized by society? Wouldn't people not like you? If they don't like you, why would they present you with any opportunities at all? So that is why I say a truly selfish person cannot cause harm to those around him, because in doing so, he forgoes the future opportunities, and all he limits himself to is the immediate present, the immediate future, which is not what a selfish person would do. A selfish person would prolong his benefits, and that's why, in order to get people to understand this, it's usually I have to explain myself in that manner, which is a relatively long explanation, and then usually the discussion ends there, or we even say it starts there, when we come to a mutual understanding of what I mean when I use the words selfish, selfless, and in that manner. Yeah.
Okay. So in other words, someone who is selfish does not necessarily mean that when he acts for his own self-interest, he's acting also to the detriment of others. It can be a win-win situation. Would I be correct to say that?
I think that a truly selfish action is an action that enriches those around him as well. Because by enriching those around him, it's like a give and take relationship. If I want to, let's say, if I want to hire you in a company for you to work for me, because I need my company to work, and I need workers to be able to work for me to enable my company to make a profit.
Yeah.
So what I need to give you in return, in order for you to be happy to work for me, is adequate remuneration, and pay you a salary, and and only then you can come to work for me. If I wasn't going to pay you, you wouldn't want to come to work for me. So in this manner, if I was to exploit you, for example, in my company, you wouldn't want to work for me. And by leaving your job, now nobody is working for me, and my company cannot make a profit. So that's why a truly selfish person, if I want to make profits, that's a self-interest, I have to take care of your interests in order to pay you adequate remuneration, so that you can serve my interests. So it's a give and take relationship.
Okay, understand. So with regards to negative connotations that comes with words like, for example, selfishness, I noticed you also did that in your book with regards to the word problem and how it connotates an undesired outcome. So my question to you is, how does one shift focus from the undesired outcomes to an analytical and solution finding process? What challenges would a person face when trying to adopt such a mindset?
Right. In your question, I've noticed that you pointed out that in shifting your focus from an undesired outcome to a solution finding process. Right. I don't think that we should be shifting our focus from the undesired outcomes. What we must do is shift our focus away from the responses we have to problems, as I've written in my book. In my book, I say that problems are a matter of perception. Things happen as they happen, but we perceive it as a problem because we think or we see that it goes against and contravenes our benefits. So it goes against our benefits, and hence it's a problem. If it doesn't, and then it's a response, but it's a response that, because we perceive a problem, we respond to that by labeling it as a problem. Why do we label it as a problem? Because it makes us feel apprehension. It makes us feel that, oh no, this is something that is an obstacle in my way. I'm not getting my way. And that invokes a lot of negative emotions, anxiety, etc., etc. I'm saying that we must shift our focus away from that response, the response of anxiety, the response of just looking at a problem and thinking that you're helpless before it. What we must instead do is, because we cannot avoid problems, but we can choose our responses to them. We can choose, either we can sit there in front of a problem and think about how much of a problem it is, or we can think about how we can solve it and how we can alter our responses into a solution finding and logical analysis of the problem and a logical response to the problem, to solve the problem.
Okay. I would agree with you on that, because from what I notice, whenever a person faces a problem, and when he takes a certain approach by, with, for example, like apprehension or avoiding it, it actually tends to make, like, for example, responses in your mind even worse. That's how anxiety comes about and all that. Yeah. So for my next question, in your book you also touched on a facade a person has and put forth the notion that it does not indicate lack of genuineness, given it requires two thought processes. But at the same time, wouldn't the person who puts on a facade be suppressing a part of himself, and could this possibly have negative consequences? Like, for example, like when we think of someone putting on a facade, we tend to perceive it as, well, that guy's being a little bit fake. Yeah.
I think when we talk about facades, at least how I've addressed it in my book, a facade is something that we do because it's part of a behavioral action. We're actively putting on a so-called mask, and we're presenting ourselves in a certain image, so that people perceive us in a certain manner. That is an active behavioral action.
Okay.
And as my book says, that all of our actions are motivated by a self-interest. So we've got to ask, what are the interests of a person in putting on a facade? First of all, I'm sure you're familiar with white lies.
Yeah.
White lies, while being deceptive in a certain way, it is told because we would like to preserve a relationship with the person we are talking to, or the recipient of the white lie. And why we're doing this is to preserve or to maintain and to ensure that the person we are talking to stays happy. We do not want to unnecessarily make someone unhappy.
Yeah.
And that goes back to a facade as well. When we wear a facade in order to, to please people, but we have to be careful again what we want from somebody. So it's not just a facade; it's the type of facade you choose as well. Yes, if you choose a facade that for the wrong reasons, then again that goes back to the debate of selflessness, selfishness, and foolishness. That would be foolish to do so, because what your objectives are. Your objectives, as in my book, I say that at the end of the day, you're born with nothing, and when you die, you leave with nothing.
Yeah.
What happens in between is up to you. And what we chase, what every one of us chase in our lifetimes, is for happiness.
Yeah.
We want to be happy. Everyone wants to be happy. No one wants to be unhappy.
Yeah.
So going back to the facade, if you're choosing a deceptive a harmful facade because you think that that will lead you to happiness, and because you think that harming others will lead you to happiness, that would be an error of judgment, because it does not lead you to happiness. Because as I mentioned, by harming people around you and harming those in society, what you're doing is you're isolating yourself. You're breaking bonds, and you're just asking for society to ostracize you, and that limits your opportunities. So that's why in choosing facades, it's important to choose facades to enrich people around you, to protect those around you, protect the feelings of those around you, and to make their lives better.
Understand. So basically it's not having a facade that's a problem, it's the facade you adopt. Whether the facade you adopt, results in you causing detriment to
Yes,
others.
exactly.
Alright. So for my next question, basically for us, how do we, go forth and achieve this balance? A balance between, serving a self-interest while, serving the interests of the community around us as well, without causing detriment to them.
I think if you were to follow what I've said in my book, the idea proposed, there is no balance to be achieved, because serving your self-interest and enriching those around you are not conflicting and contradicting each other. They come together in one package. By serving your own interests, if you are truly selfish and that you want to make the most out of your actions to make yourself the happiest person in the world, let's just say that if you want to be the happiest person in the world, you wouldn't go out of your way to harm people, again, to break the bonds with those around you, because we live in society, we are social animals. Social interactions are, of course, part and parcel with happiness that we can achieve. So there's no balance to be, because it's not something that you sacrifice for another.
Yeah.
You don't sacrifice your self-interest for the enrichment of others. You enrich others because you want to serve your self-interest, because you want to be a happy person. And in serving others, you serve yourself.
So, would I be, correct to say that what you're basically saying is probably one of the mistakes that we make is we assume that, as we did earlier, that serving our self-interests is not in conflict with, serving the interests of the community around us. It's actually possible to do both at the same time, and in other words, it's our perception towards this the whole time that was wrong. We can do both at the same time, and we don't have to choose one or the other.
Yes, exactly. I've mentioned this word earlier as well when we talk about error of judgment. When someone chooses the immediate future over a longer period of time, we call them they're short-sighted. They prioritize a benefit that is in front of them rather than benefit that lasts for a long time to come. And when you're prioritizing a longer benefits over your lifetime, I think that if a person is greedy for self-interest, a selfish person is greedy, he wants more for himself, you would obviously go for the long-term option rather than the short-term option, and then just get cut off there. So I think that, yes, we must have foresight, and in having good judgment is important to serve our own interests. And typically, in order to serve our own interests, it involves enriching the lives of those around us.
Right. Thanks, Arif, for discussing these concepts with us. So the question is, for our viewers and potential readers, where could we, buy your book?
Right, you can get it from MPH Bookstore in MPH Midvalley and NU Sentral. But also, today's world, for ease of convenience, you can also get it at online at mphonline.com.
Okay, so can get it online, and it's and if you want to go to a store and get it, smack in the middle of Kuala Lumpur, Midvalley, New Central. So there you have it. Thanks, Arif, for joining us today.
Thank you very much for interviewing me.